So I brought the ACJA and I kept it one side, and I brought the Constitution and I kept it one side. The latest copy of the Constitution as printed by the Federal Ministry of Justice. Now, I looked at the relevant provision of the ACJA, the whole part. Then I also looked at the relevant provision of the Constitution. Now, this is what I want you to know. You made reference to the fact that the Constitution might not contain certain things. Now, anytime a court says, makes reference to Section 1 and Section 3, Section 1, Subsection 1, and Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Constitution, then what the court is trying to tell you, let you know, is that what it is making reference to was provided in the Constitution. It is not telling you about an implied thing or something that was implied in the Constitution. No. Anytime a judge makes reference to Section 1, Subsection 1 of the Constitution or Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Constitution, that means there is a violation of a particular section of the Constitution. Now, which section of the Constitution was violated? If you look at the section, I think that is Section 250. Is it 56 or 58 that deals with the Federal High Court? The Constitution says that, in talking about the judgment, it says that the judgment shall be delivered by a judge of that court. That was it. And if you go to Section 278 or so, talking about state high courts, the Constitution also says that a valid judgment shall be delivered by a judge of that court. So now, Honorable Justice Limo, JCA now, as at the time when he came back to deliver that judgment in Federal High Court, Lagos, he got a fiat from the Honorable Chief Justice of the Federal High Court, that's Honorable Justice Soho. Honorable Justice Soho gave him the fiat by virtue of the provision of ACJA, and he went ahead to deliver the judgment. However, when the former Director of Finance of Abia State appealed, his counsel appealed, because it was not Ojizokal that even appealed the judgment. It was another defendant that appealed, to the Court of Appeal. The point the person was trying to make, or he made at the Court of Appeal, was that Honorable Justice Glimo is no longer a judge of the Federal High Court as at the time he delivered the judgment. And the Constitution says that for a judgment of the Federal High Court to be valid, it must be delivered by a judge of that court. So the Court of Appeal did not find it difficult. What they did was that they looked at the date. So Justice Limo was given a fiat by the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court for him to go in line with the provisions of the ACJA to go and deliver the judgment. After he delivered the judgment, a judge will deliver judgment and he will write his name and his status. So, as a Federal High Court judge, he will write Limo J. But the problem he had at that point was that his status have changed from J to JCA. Do you understand? So that was the problem he had. So one of the accused persons, who was the Director of Finance in Abia State, now filed a notice of appeal and said that the judge that delivered the judgment in this case, at the point of delivering the judgment, was no longer a judge of that court, of the Federal High Court. He was now a judge of the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal did not find it difficult to annul the judgment. Then EFCC appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court also agreed with the Court of Appeal because it's clear. They looked at it. They looked at the provision of the Constitution, and they saw that the provision of the Constitution, as it relates to a valid judgment of the Federal High Court, specifies clearly that it must be delivered by a judge of the court, of that particular court. So the question I want to ask you now is, as at the time when Justice Limo was delivering the judgment, which status did he have? Is it that of Limo J or Limo JCA?
It's obviously, sir, it is JCA. It is JCA.
So that means the constitution was violated.
So, sir, but see, sir, are you saying we should do? But see, like I even heard there are cases that talk about when a court wants to give its ruling, the court also is bound by common sense. Do you agree with that, sir?
Yes, I agree with you, but not in criminal cases.
Sir, okay. Criminal, sir.
You need to understand.
Criminal cases should even have more. Common sense should have more weight in criminal cases. Sir, okay, sir. Should we throw away, sir? Should we throw away the years of cross-examining witnesses and those evidence and those several other matters? If Kalu wants to be tried again, do you know that some of those witnesses, some of them might have died or something have happened or they might not be willing to testify. Different things could come up.
Okay, Paul, let me tell you something. Sir. The EFCC lawyer is Rotimi Williams, SAN. And Rotimi Williams, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
I'm hearing you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I said the EFCC lawyer is Rotimi Williams, SAN.
Okay.
And sorry, Rotimi Jacobs, not Williams, Jacobs. And he committed a fatal blunder. Because I know that some lawyers would have told him. You know, when we started, even before you asked me concerning Carlos' case, I told you that a criminal case that the prosecutor has a higher burden. I already told you. It's like a camel passing through the eye of a needle. I told you already.
Yes,
after Rotimi Jacobs did a fantastic work for 12 years in prosecuting Carlos' case.
Yes, sir.
At the point of giving judgment, he knew the law. But because he was eager that the judgment be delivered, he committed a blunder. Now, see what he would have done. It is very simple. Since this guy has been promoted, do you understand? You quickly write to the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, making reference to the provision of the ACJA, which is in contradiction to the provision of the Constitution, and telling them as an astute senior advocate that you don't want a conflict of laws, that you know that the Constitution is more supreme, that it is important that the judge that has already been promoted should reassign this case toward the Chief Judge.
Okay.
And the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, he has a court in Abuja and also has a court in Lagos.
Okay, sir.
If you're a Chief Judge of a court, you can sit anywhere you want to sit. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court can decide to come to Benin and sit. So what he would have done with his influence as a senior advocate was just to write to the Chief Judge, copy the judge that has been promoted, and copy all the counsel, telling them that since this man has been promoted, let the matter be assigned to the Chief Judge. And since the matter has been concluded, the judgment that is remaining, the Chief Judge can now come and sit and deliver the judgment. Since the Chief Judge is still a judge of that court, if a judge is handling a matter, and let's say the judge dies, and is remaining for the judge to deliver judgment, another judge of that court can come and deliver that judgment.
I'm following.
Do you know that? Hello? Yes, I can. I said, do you know that if a judge hears a matter, and at the point of delivering of judgment, the judge dies, you know that another judge of that particular court can come and deliver that judgment?
I'm not quite sure of this particular position, but I think I know of the position that another judge will sit over the case from the beginning. That's the novo.
Yes. Yes, that one is can also happen. But what I'm saying is that even if, for the fact that the matter has been heard, if your argument was that, let me tell you that if, for instance, that the EFCC lawyer, that's Rotimi SDN, wrote to the Chief Judge of Federal High Court and asked that, in view of this provision of this constitution, and which is also in conflict with the provision of the ACJA, please, this matter be reassigned to you, for you to come and sit and deliver the judgment, or for you to reassign it to another judge. If the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court now comes to Lagos to deliver the judgment, and the accused person now appeals and says that the person that heard the matter is different from the person that delivered the judgment, your argument now would have sufficed. Your argument of common sense would have sufficed, because the prosecutor will now go to Court of Appeal and tell them no, that this is still in line with the law, because the constitution says that a judgment is valid when it is delivered by a judge of that court. So the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court is still a judge of the Federal High Court.
Okay. So may I ask you a question at this point?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Now let's assume that it was not assigned to another judge. And I want to ask this question: What is the principle behind? Because a name just changed from J to JCA. What's the principle behind that? Is it not?
A lot of.
It's like is the same human being who?
No.
It's the same human being who saw. Sir,
big deal.
Yeah, it is because I know it is okay. You're talking about constitution, but apart from the constitution, now what's the principle behind that?
Thank you.
Yes, the principle, like
the principle behind it is that a justice of the Court of Appeal or the Court of Appeal is only constituted when at least 3 judges sit. At least 3. So one person cannot come and sit as JCA. It's also a constitutional matter.
Wow, okay. I think I'm liking the angle you're coming from.
So you see, the complication is too much. So for Nemo to come and sit and write JCA is a big complication, because one person cannot even sit as a justice of a court of appeal, because it is the constitution says that under section 249 that the Court of Appeal is an appellant court. I think 235, not 49. The Court of Appeal is an appellant court, and it sits at 3 or 5. So one person cannot come and sit as a justice of the Court of Appeal. It's not possible.
Okay.
So that status he has at that point in time is a status that is not enjoyed by a single person.
Okay. What if we look at it from this angle? Like the prefix, maybe J or JC, that should come after his name should be the position he held at the time he started the case. What do you think about this particular angle?
From what? I didn't hear you.
Okay. I see. If a judge wants to write his judgment, he writes his name, and later JCA or JSA or J comes after his name. Now, what if we should take it this way, that the name that should be placed after the prefix that should be the abbreviation that should be placed after his name in the judgment should be the position he held at the time he started that particular case. What do you think about that angle? So at the time he started that case, he was a judge, but when he concluded, it was not a JCA. Now, because of this particular case, which is a very peculiar circumstance, because I don't think this has ever happened in Nigerian jurisprudence before, where a judge was trying a case, then he was promoted or something like that.
It has happened a lot.
It has happened a lot. Okay. I think
a lot. In fact, I have some judges. That they will be hearing my matter and they will be promoted. And once they are promoted, they reassign all the cases. As far as the matter has not gotten to judgment, if your matter have not gotten to judgment, it will start de novo. It will start de novo immediately.
Yes, de novo.
So that is it. So no, what you are saying, that let the name of the judge, let it bear the name he was, or the prefix he had when he started the matter. No, that will not be possible, and I will tell you why.
I
It
can
is a
argue this. If I should
constitutional
settle down.
matter. No,
Okay.
it is a constitutional matter. You see, whenever I'm doing any case and that case has to do with the constitution and I'm a defendant, I'm always very happy. I am
know that,
so happy because I don't have too much work to do. Yes, I don't have much to do. What I need to do is just to file 2 pages of notice of preliminary objection and to write like 25 pages of written address pointing on law, just points of law. There will not be any affidavits. It will just be a notice of preliminary objection strictly on points of law.
Yeah.
And I will state all the position of the laws that has been violated. Finish, and the court will just look at it and strike out the matter.
Yeah, I believe you must be good.
Simple, and I'll let my cool cash.
Yeah, you must be good in procedural law. I believe so. As a defender,
I take my time in procedure. So that's why I'm telling you. Immediately I read that Carlos case, and I saw that it was in conflict with the constitution. See, even if it took 100 years to hear that matter, and that judge made that mistake.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree on this.
Do you understand? That one is emotions. You're not talking of emotion. You know what you're saying? You're not in practice. Once you join the practice, once you join the practice, all these things you are saying now will not even matter to you again. Okay, let me shock you.
Okay, sir. Let me
shock you. There is a law. Okay. Ask your question.
Justice. Do you think that justice itself, fairness, it's like using Carlos case as an example, demands that a matter that we had over 10 years should now be started de novo? Is that what justice really demands? Let's forget about these procedures. Okay, procedures are very important. Yes, procedures are important, but procedures should not be followed so in specific circumstances that are so peculiar. Like we said, sui generis. Like this Carlos case was something that is to me, it's something that is very peculiar. So I don't agree with that stance that the matter will now have to be heard again, now call the evidences and all the witnesses. It's just to me it is somehow. That's my position, but that's my own position.
Okay. You asked me a question now.
Yes.
You say whether justice was served. My brother.
Yes. If it's according to justice, you are emphasizing procedures. I know the court follow procedures, but the court, technically itself lies in procedures. Technically that the court, sir.
If you have read Justice Denning's judgments, criminal matters in the House of Lords, if you have followed his judgment closely, even in civil matters, you will understand that in most cases, Lord Denning will tell you that justice is relative. The word justice is relative. Very relative. So what a prosecutor calls justice is different from what a defendant calls justice. So as a lawyer, you must appreciate this.
I agree with you.
So if you're asking me as a neutral party, because I was neither the prosecutor or the defense in Carlos' case, if you're asking me as a neutral lawyer and as a lawyer that enjoys the rule of law and understands the principle of procedure, whether justice was served, my brother, justice was served. Hot justice was served. It's a lesson to all prosecutors. You understand? I'm telling you, you see, when I see some prosecutors in court, I weep for this country. If I see the way they conduct their cases, do you know at times when I go to court and I get judgments in my favor, and the matter of the claimant or the prosecutor is struck out, at times I'm not happy because you should do better. You know, you should do better. So that's it. If you don't do your work well,
I think most times some of them are in rush, Abi.
Because they have a lot of cases. You understand? But we as defense lawyers, we take our time because we know that it's a company that is paying. So the company, we want to win their case. So I take my time all night. I will look at all the laws. And let me tell you, anytime you write anything and give to me, there's something I've learned over the years as a practicing lawyer. This year, I'm 5 years in the bar as a lawyer.
Okay.
There's something I've learned over time, and it has helped me. Anytime you write anything and give to me, I must find a fault in it. There's no how. Anytime I get a court process, no matter how well written it is, I must see a default in it. I will give you an instance. When I was with Ministry of Justice, most of the time, I don't respond to the men suits. When you file an action against the president, against Attorney General, I don't even I just file the notice of preliminary objection. And I normally use one particular law. That law is called Public Officers Protection Act. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes, of course, I've heard of it, sir.
That law is a bad law in Nigeria. I have used it very well. But that law is a bad law. That law is a bad law.
In what aspect, sir?
Section 2, subsection 1A of that law says that any action that is brought against a public officer, by public officer, it means a government worker or a government establishment. Any action that is brought after 3 months of the occurrence of the cause of action,
it started bad,
has been caught. Yes, it started bad. It's a bad
I
law.
think I've read about 3 cases on that particular public.
My brother, that law has provided nothing less than 500 or 1,000 cases in Nigeria. See, I use that law.
Don't think there's a principle behind it.
Yes, but let me tell you, at this age that we are in, that law is a bad law, and I will tell you why. See the reason here. If you really want to do justice, when it's justice, I will tell you. When it's fairness, I will tell you. When it's bad, I will tell you. I worked with government. And I'm telling you that this law that me as a defense lawyer have used very well and I've gotten a lot of cases on it, I'm telling you that it's a bad law. And this is the reason. A lecturer in Uniben, for instance, today is 3rd of August, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's take, for instance, a lecturer comes to work today and he's trying to open his office. His office is not opening.
Yes, sir.
He goes to the dean, says, somebody changed my lock. The dean gives him a letter. This letter is from the vice chancellor. He opens the letter. It's a letter that he has been sacked. He says, why? Okay. Remember, his course of action have already started from that day. He says, why? He doesn't know what has happened though. He will beg the dean, please, what did I do? He will start making contact to meet with the administration. At that same point in time, he is demoralized, he's confused. He will start calling his wife. He will call his pastor. They will say, let us do 14 days fasting and prayer. He will be praying, he will be walking up and down at administration. You will discover that at the end of August, this man is still walking about, trying to figure out. Probably somebody in VC's office will then say, don't worry, I will talk to the VC on your behalf. Some lecturers will come together and say, okay, they will talk to the VC. Now, finally, they talk to the VC. We enter September. VC will now say, okay, you did this and you did that. Let us set a committee. Or let us even look into it very well. His time is counting. Now they set up a committee to look into whether he should be sacked or not.
Time was counting.
Now the committee will look at it. The committee will sit once in a week or once in 2 weeks. September will pass. We enter October. You will discover that the committee will sit for like 3 months. We are in November. The matter is already started bad. He does not know. Now later in January, the committee says, Oga, you are badly fired. This man now cries. The wife now says, okay, my younger brother works in a law firm. The younger brother says, okay, you have a valid case. You did not do anything, they fired you. Let's go to our law firm. He comes to the law firm. The law firm now says, okay, you have a good case.
Okay.
You are going to pay the sum of what? 1.5 million naira for us to handle this case for you. For us to start the case, you have to pay a deposit of 800,000 naira. The man does not have the money. He will start begging. Please, oh, why don't you take 500,000? The law firm says 1 million. The man will say, okay, hold 500,000. At the end of the case, I will give you 500,000. By the time the law firm will take the facts, prepare the case, this thing, it will be around ending of March.
Yeah,
at times, beginning of April, they will go and file the matter and start the university.
Yeah.
The university's lawyer will look at the process and file a notice of preliminary objection and tell the court that this man's cause of action started on the 3rd of August. However, this matter was filed on the 1st of April.
Okay.
In the university's affidavit, a staff of the Vice Chancellor's office will be the deponent. He will show a copy of the man's resignation letter, showing that this man has been, look at his letter, it is dated on the 3rd of August. However, this matter was filed on the 15th or the 1st of April. The judge will now count August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 8 months. Okay, what were you doing for the past 8 months? All the excuses that you are saying that, no, I'm coming. Let me all these excuses that the man will be saying that they set up a committee or they don't set up a committee. Remember, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. There are so many laws in Nigeria that you, Paul, you don't know about. But if you break any of them and you are charged by it, if you say you don't know about it, it is not an excuse. So I'm telling you that particular law is a bad law because a lot of civil servants don't know about it. So that's my take on it.
Yes, sir. As for that course of action, I know what course of action is, but I feel that the course of action should have begun at the moment when the committee concluded its finding. What do you think?
No, and I will tell you why. The only thing, if I was the prosecuting counsel, do you know what I would do? If I'm the prosecuting counsel, what I would do is that I will tell the judge that the cause of action started on the 3rd of August.
Okay.
And that cause of action continued when I wrote to the university that I was validly sacked. And immediately the university set up a committee to look into my sack. The cause of action continued. And the cause of action continued up till January when the committee now validated my sack.
Okay.
That it was actually on that day they validated my sack that my date, that 3 months started counting. But what do you have in practice? So many lawyers don't read. I'm telling you, a lot of lawyers don't read.
Yes, sir.
Because it is only a lawyer that reads that will know that actually the 3 months should start from that date in January when the committee validated, because that committee is part of the university.
Yeah.
The committee was actually validating what they did on the 3rd of August. But what most lawyers will write on their affidavits is that the person was sacked on the 3rd of August. That's what they will keep hammering on. Forgetting of, there's what they call in thought, chain of causation. That chain of causation, it continued. There is a chain that made it to continue. It continued. But they don't know that. So that's the problem. You see, most judges, they will have a matter. They will not read it though. If in court, they will be reading it. And then what's wrong with this person? He's bad.
I think it's true.
So I don't. Whenever they strike out people's matter, I don't pity for them. You see some lawyers when you want to during trial. Yes, during trial, if you mistakenly the judge.
Okay, I'm hearing you now, sir. I stopped at where you said during trial. That was where I stopped hearing you.
Okay, during trial, you find out that some of the some of the lawyers, when let's say they are doing a cross-examination on witness, and the lawyer will ask a question that I feel that question is not a cross-examination question,
Okay. Yeah.
And I object to that line of action. And I support it with the position of the law. Most of the time, these guys will not be able to respond to you on points of law. They will just be relying on points of fact, because they don't know the position of the law to even respond to. So that's what I'm saying. If a lawyer makes a mistake, he does not do his work well, he does not read the facts well, I don't pity such a lawyer. If you brief me now as a lawyer, there's something I do.
Yeah.
When I get a brief from a what's it called, a client, I take my time, I read that email very well. Then while I'm sending you my bill of charges, I send what they call a case plan. I will summarize your case
yes, sir.
for
I'm
you.
with you, sir.
Are you there? Yes. I will summarize your case for you. Then I will tell you, these are the positions of the law concerning this. This is the flaw of this case.
Okay.
Look at the flaws. But this is the action we can take. These are points. This is what we are going to do. This is the appropriate court we are going to file this action before. This is why I believe that this action, we can get something out of this particular case. I draft it and I send it via email to the client. You see that I discover that most of the time when I'm done, when the client is done reading my case plan, they are so impressed that they will even tell you, cancel. They will just send the money immediately. They will pay the 60% and tell you to go and file immediately. You understand?
Okay.
You make the client will even have more confidence. Well, what do you have? Most of the time, when a client briefs a lawyer, they don't even do a case plan. They'll just sit over the phone and tell you, don't worry, we'll go and file something. And next thing, you come and give the client something to sign. You tell him that it's his witness statement on oath. He will read and say, I don't understand this one. This is not how it happened, though. He said, don't worry. When I ask in court, say yes, that's how it happens. The client is not following you. So if you ask that one, there's a way you ask the person question on the witness box, you see the person will just fall and fumble immediately. So what I do is that for companies I represent, I always tell the company, give me one of your staff that knows this fact very well.
Okay.
You come, we sit down together, we'll discuss the fact very well. And I prepare and I send to your email. You read the witness statement on oath. You make your own input. So by the time we are done and we agree and you sign, I go and file, I give you a copy. So you know that this is what I wrote myself. It's not just that the lawyer wrote it. I understand everything the lawyer wrote. And it has helped us.
Hello, sir. I want to introduce you to my friend, Philip Kepat. He's online now. We love having this type of conversation. Philip, hi.
Hello, Piper.
Yes.
Hello, Piper, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Greek,
I did not get what you said earlier. If you can just summarize everything.
Yes, I'm introducing you to is a brother in the legal profession, a senior one above us by far. So his name is Michael Agbo Esquire. Could you greet him?
Yeah. Evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, sir Michael, Philip is my.
I'm doing fine, sir.
Yeah, sir Michael, Philip is my friend. Yeah, we are usually co-counsel very much in most and most.
Okay, you guys are classmates.
Yes. We like having this type of conversation. So let's progress. We're talking about this. We left Carlos case and we came to this present thing. So let's go back to Carlos case.
Hey, in Carlos case, we've actually finished. So it's just for you to ask the question. I gave you the reason why I believe strongly that the Supreme Court was right. So it's now left for you to now, canvass your own argument. I told you that it's not by, at this point in time, it's not by looking at emotions. It's about looking at the constitution, the law, the ground norm. What is the law saying? And that is what the Supreme Court is interested in. And for you to do well in this our legal profession, it is important that even as you are doing this meet and mock trial in school, anytime any matter, any brief borders around the Constitution, or you think there is an infringement of the Constitution or any other law, it is important that before you write your submission, that you go and look at that law. Read that law very well. You will always find out that the other party will fumble. Do you understand? Okay. So use that advantage. It's very important. Okay. So that is where you distinguish lawyers and lawyers.
Okay. Yeah.
This is your 400 level, right?
No, I'm 300 level. Yes. Philip, what do you have to say about Carlos' case?
Kano. Okay, Nnamdi Kano.
No, Carlos' case. Orji Carlos' case.
Guy, I'm just coming. I did not get what you guys were discussing earlier.
Yes. Where the Supreme Court overrode the
Orji Carlos' case. Okay.
Judgment. I was having a conversation with Michael Esquire. He was like in support of the Supreme Court. But me, I oppose it. What is your own stance?
Actually, that particular case, I intentionally refused to have an opinion because.
Why? As a lawyer, you must have an opinion concerning.
We are talking about somebody. When the news was busy going around,
you can't sit on the.
I don't want to say anything. Actually, but to be sincere, what the Supreme Court did, I'm actually against it because it shows that it's merely technicality, But if this case should be maybe before the Supreme Court in England, I am 100% sure that the court will reach a different decision because, the judges, they are activists, and they don't allow technicalities to, overcome substance. Case has what the court is.
Philip, could you rejoin?
Look at this. Okay. Has
Philip,
this man been properly tried? Is there anything that will
I can hear you now. Go on.
Will infer that he has not been given fair? Hello, Piper. Hello, Piper. Can you hear me? Okay. I think the Supreme Court actually, just like I was saying earlier, the Supreme Court did not show any act of judicial activism here. They just allow technicality to be the basis of their decision.
This was what I was trying to say. I think Philip has said it better in a better way. I just think so.
Okay. So
I want to ask you guys a question, please.
Imagine the number of sir.
Have you read the judgment?
I've not actually read the judgment, but I read the summary.
Okay, there's something I like doing.
Available.
No, if you Google it, you can get it. It is important as lawyers. We are learning every day. It's important that before you make your opinion on certain things, there are things you must have read to have a balanced view of it, to be seized of it. For instance, now, for you to contribute or to give a solid opinion, whether you are for or against this particular case, you must have read 3 particular things. The first one is the judgment. The second one, are you there?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, the first one is the judgment of the court. The second one is the Constitution of Nigeria. And the third one is the administration of Criminal Justice Act. These are the 3 things you should read: the relevant sections and the whole of the judgment. If you read it, and after reading it, you are still convinced that the Supreme Court was wrong in their judgment, then it becomes your own view. Do you understand? And you can argue it anyway, But after reading it, you still believe that the Supreme Court was right. Then that's still your view. For instance, I told Paul before you joined that I applaud the Supreme Court for that judgment. And I have a reason why I did it. Because apart from being a defense counsel, I believe that procedure should be followed at all times. I don't encourage judicial rascality. What happened in that case in the Federal High Court was what they call judicial rascality. You cannot be a justice of a court of appeal and come down because you heard the matter when you were a judge of the Federal High Court in flagrant disobedience to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, of which you are appointed as a judge, and you disobey the Constitution, and you deliver the judgment as if you are still a judge of that particular Federal High Court, and after that you still go back and sit as the justice of the Court of Appeal. That is unacceptable, So, and if you look at the judges that delivered the judgments, specifically in the Supreme Court, look at Auge JCA.
Lecturer that he was treating criminal procedures.
Okay,
hello,
go on,
sir.
I can hear you.
Papa, can you hear me? Okay. There was this time I was having a lecture on criminal procedures, on judgment.
Hello, Philip.
I've heard the case and
Philip, could you
restate the case.
Yeah, go on.
Leave and rejoin. I can't hear you. Leave and rejoin, please.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear you. Go on now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
There was this lecture that was delivered by one of my lecturers when I was doing diploma in law. It's about criminal procedure. He was talking about judgment. That for example, when a judge has listened to a case and he has finished listening to the evidence and all that is remaining is just judgment, and he later was transferred or promoted to a higher court, the judge of that trial court can still invite him to come and read his judgment. Not necessarily, sometimes the handwriting of the judge may be difficult for the substantive judge to read. And maybe, because of all this stuff, and maybe, the judge the substantive judge may not have listened to the evidence. So instead of the trial to start de novo, so it's best for the judge to come and deliver the judgment himself, and he has the right to do that. That was what he told me. And when I heard about the case of Kano, and I recall, in fact, I have an audio record of that lecture, which I still listen to up to today. And the man, I can send you that aspect of the lecture where the man said, a judge can still come back to his former court and read his judgment and go back, and it is actually not unlawful.
Sir Michael, what do you think about this position? Like coming back to read his judgment.
It's totally false.
Excuse me, sir.
Philip.
Judgment is very secret. Hello, sir. And one of the reasons.
Do you have your constitution there? No, wait. Forget about what your lecturer said. Let us. But do you agree in the constitution?
Sir, do you believe that judgment
do you agree in the constitution? Wait, do you agree in the Constitution of Nigeria, the 1999 Constitution?
Yeah, I do have my constitution, sir.
Hello, Philip.
Hello?
Hello,
Philip.
Hello? I can hear you. Sir?
I said, do you agree that Do you agree in the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria?
Yeah, that's the ground. I am.
Okay.
Of course, everybody is bound by the Constitution.
And do you agree that
whether
it
you
is
like
supreme
it or
above
not.
every other laws in Nigeria? Okay. Do you have a copy of the Constitution there?
Sir?
Do you have a copy of the Constitution there?
Yeah. I have it here.
Okay, you have it. Okay, Paul, what about you? Do you have a copy of the Constitution there?
Yes, I'm with it now.
Yes, I have considered on my phone.
Okay, please, can you guys open to section 200 and I think 62?
Okay. Let me open.
I'm not with my own Constitution there, but I think it's 62. The part that deals with the Federal High Court.
Okay,
the Federal High Court.
Yes.
Okay. My
It
Constitution
started
is
from
open.
section. Federal High Court started from 251 or 250 or so. One of them. But the point I'm looking at, I think, is in section 262. The part that deals with delivering of judgment.
Okay, I am there, sir.
So what does section 262 talk? Is it the part that deals with judgment?
Okay, I'm coming. Section 262, right?
Yes. Is it the part? I don't have my own Constitution.
No, okay, 62 is talking about the Sharia Court of Appeal.
yeah,
I think,
that's what I was At least
But I know it's around that corner. So I'm asking, is it the part, the condition you have there, section 262, is it the part that deals with
Court of Appeal, Sharia Court of
judgment?
Appeal, rather.
No. Sorry, go back to section 258.
Okay, 258. Okay, I'm there, sir.
258 has to do with Federal High Court territory.
Okay, Federal Capital Territory. Let's go up. I think we should go a bit up.
No, go up a bit. See what I'm looking for. I can't remember the part, but I know it's section 25 something. So let me tell you what the section says, so you can help me look at your Constitution.
I think it's
Huh?
the section. I think section 252.
Okay, 252.
What does it say?
Okay, it says for the purpose of exercising any jurisdiction conferred upon it by the Constitution may be conferred an act of the National Assembly. The Federal High Court shall have all the powers of the High Court of the state.
No, that's not what I'm looking for.
Okay.
See, let me tell you what I'm looking for.
253 states. The Federal High Court shall be duly constituted if it consists of at least one judge of the court. Is that what you're looking for, sir?
Thank you. Read it again so Philip will hear it.
Okay, Philip, section 253.
Okay, it says the Federal High Court shall be duly constituted if it consists of at least one judge of that constitution.
I want both of you. I'll give you guys 5 seconds. I'll give you guys 5 seconds. Look at that line. Internalize it in 5 seconds. And tell me, one after the other. I will start with you, Paul. Tell me what you understand from that section.
Okay, now I've looked at this section.
Understand by this section.
Let's start with Paul.
Okay, sir. What I take about this particular section is that saying that even 3 judges can sit. However, the list of number of judges should be 1 because it states that we consisted of if it consists of at least one judge of that court. So from that court, at least just one judge. That's what I understand by this section.
Okay. So Philip, over to you.
Yeah, I think what Papa has said, but want to add to what he has said. To me, there is no maximum number of judges for the Federal High Court, but there is a minimum, which is one. It must not be less than one, but it can be more than one. But who has not specified the maximum number of judges? It can be 10 or more than that. It can be less than one.
Okay. Now, I want both of you to look at your constitution, and I want you to look at the last word. In fact, the last two words. It says, sorry, 3 words. It says, of that court. So the question I want to ask you guys, and I want you people to take your time, think and answer.
Okay.
Honorable Justice Limo JCA, at the time when he delivered that judgment in December. Was he a judge of the Federal High Court?
At the time he started hearing the case, he was a judge of the Federal High Court. But at the concluding time, he was no longer a judge of the Federal High Court. He was promoted.
Thank you. So, Philip. Philip,
can you be on the earpiece? Please, can you be on the earpiece? I'm hearing echo.
Let me look for it.
Okay, thank you. Sir, you can go on.
Okay. So you see, Paul, it's very simple. It is a constitutional matter. And if you read right from the time of likes of Obaseke, JSC, Nnemeka Agu, JSC, Honorable Justice Nnamani JSC, Oputa, Honorable Justice Anogolo, Honorable Justice Nikitobi is more recent.
Okay, yeah, more recent. Owaifu.
Honorable Justice Idigwe.
Yes, Owaifu too, right?
Yes. Waifu, yes. Waifu is still 90. I'm talking about old guys.
Okay,
very
like
old guys. Yes.
Okay, Kayode Esho.
So Kayode Esho, thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Justice Coker.
I think Coker was 70s, right? Coker.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir. I'm here. I think Coker was 70s.
Yes. If you read their judgment, for instance, now, my PhD area is on land law.
Okay.
And I am. My topic is on. In fact, my topic is like this. Is the Supreme Court and land law.
Wow. That's nice.
And I am examining the conflicting judgment of the Supreme Court.
Okay, as regards
right from inception. Yes. Or land law, just for land law. And I've read a lot of cases. So as I am now, it has helped me now. When I'm looking at some issues, I'm looking at some cases. I can tell you what I feel the judge was thinking, and also the socio-economic issues at that point in time that made the judge
to give that
particular judgment. Okay. Now, I have discovered over time that once it has to do with the Constitution, the Supreme Court is always final. They don't want to joke with it.
Yes.
You know, they just hit it, the nail on the head. They don't care whether a lot of people are going to be affected. And I'll give you an instance. Just after Obasanjo was elected as the president in 1999, and Tinubu was elected as the governor of Lagos State.
Okay.
Tinubu created 30 more local governments.
Okay. Yeah, I
Out
think
of
I've
the
read it.
existing local governments, 20 local governments in Lagos
Yeah,
State,
Lagos State. Yes,
making the total 50.
Yes, sir.
The federal government refused to allocate revenues to the other 30 created.
Yes, sir.
Even though Obasanjo and Tinubu had their political issues, Obasanjo was able to win in the Supreme Court. His argument was that this local government was not created in line with the Constitution. Specifically, looking at section 7, 8, 9 of the Constitution, of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court agreed with him.
Okay.
But if you look at justice, you see that Lagos State is a large and pledging city. It is developing. So it needs more revenue.
Yes, sir. I can
It
hear
needs
you,
to
sir.
be created, divided
I can
into
also
more
hear you.
local governments.
I can hear you, sir.
For ease of administration, it needs to be divided
Okay.
into more local governments. But irrespective of the rationale behind the creation of more local governments, because it was in conflict with the Constitution and the Constitution was not followed, the Supreme Court refused to recognize those local governments as being validly created.
Okay.
So what Tinubu now did in order to pay Obasanjo back was to call it, he didn't call it a local government again. He now called it Lagos Development Council something. You know, it's no longer called the local government. So Tinubu now used the state funds. When they give him revenue for 20 local governments, he will divide it into 50 and give to 50 people there.
Oh.
And that is what has been in place up till today that I'm talking with you.
Oh.
So be careful as a lawyer and a law student. No matter how emotion will carry you, I'm telling you. If you want to succeed as a lawyer, don't come to court and be telling the judge that, my lord, do you know how much has been expended in this thing? Once it is in conflict with the Constitution, my dear, follow that Constitution. The best you can do is to write to the National Assembly to amend that particular part of the Constitution.
But sir,
So you can give your opinion.
For me personally, I think such will not be, the constitution will not then be in tune with the society and society progresses, because society progress. For example, our constitution was written in 1999, and since then a lot of things have changed. If we still promote strict adherence into the constitution, I don't support that in any sense at all. I do not support that. I have the belief, yes, constitution is supreme, but not the fact that we have to be religious to it. That's my own take. That's my own take. That's my own take. And if you look at the United States Constitution, the United States Constitution is a pamphlet. Yes, a pamphlet.
Yes,
but yes, you know, it progresses through, as my brother said, not my brother, my learned colleague, or yes, my learning colleague Philip, judicial activism. I think it's something that we actually need in Nigeria. I'm not strict adherence to constitution. Sticking to the constitution so strictly it will make us retarded and not progress in the way we ought to progress. Like you know the matter of rape. You know rape, right?
Yes.
Though I think there have been an amendment or something as regards that. Prior to the amendment, I've been having this discussion with some of my mates. I believe that even though the criminal code was specific about penetration and rape, I believe that females also should be held in rape. And this was the argument. I wrote an argument on that specifically. It was an article. This was how I did it. You know, there's a section in the Constitution that talks about. Okay, I still went back to the Constitution though. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, you were saying something about rape.
Yes. I said before the even the amendment they introduced as holding females for rape also. I had the belief too that females can be held for rape, even notwithstanding the section that was provided in the criminal code. Anyway, I went back to the Constitution, you know, because there's a particular section in the Constitution that talks about gender equality. And you know, when we are applying the Constitution, it should be applied to both sex. And the particular section that talks about rape in the criminal code, if you should read it, is very gender biased. You get my point, sir?
Yes,
it's very gender biased. So, even though the criminal code has stated that he made it that only men can be held for rape, I was of the view that we may also, in our present society, as a society together, should also be held for rape. So, the basic point I'm trying to state is that judicial activism should be something that is promoted, and courts should not held strictly to constitutional provisions or any other law. They should progress as society is progressing. Yes, sir.
I even discovered something. Talking with you guys there. You guys need to read. You guys need to read more. You need to research more. I want to correct you on something. The criminal code has not been amended to reflect that a woman can be held for rape. No. A total new law was made and assented to by Jonathan in 2015. And that law is called Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. VAP Act for short. That particular law, Section 1, Subsection 1, talks about rape, and it says that any person, so both male or female.
Yes, you know that.
So it's not the criminal code.
Yes, I thought that particular VAP Act applies only to Abuja, and it doesn't. Some states have not taken it or domesticated it.
Thank you. Some states have not domesticated it. But in those areas where it has been domesticated, what applies is now left for the governor and the State House of Assembly. In that area, both male and female. But currently, the Criminal Code Act is undergoing amendment. It has not been amended. So the only law that states that even during lockdown, there were a lot of rape cases and allegations of rape cases. And some honorable members in the House of Representatives were arguing in my presence that there is no law that says that a woman can be held for rape. And I looked at them and I said, please, can I talk? My boss was there. They said yes. I told the woman, the honorable member, she's a woman. I said, please, honorable member. There is a law called the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015.
Okay.
Long ago, that law has already stated clearly that a woman can be held culpable for rape. In this Abuja that we are staying together. I brought the law and I showed her. She was marveled. 2015, I said yes. Another senior lawyer was criticizing the judicial system on WhatsApp, and he put something and he said blah blah blah. Their women have not been this one. There's no law like that. I quickly sent him a message on private chat. I said, Oga, please bring this thing down. And I told him this is the law, and it has been on since 2015. He quickly checked and removed it immediately. So You see, I like to research a lot. If I don't know about any particular this thing, law, any this thing, I just tell you, okay, give me time. The internet is always there. I look through it, then I will respond back. You know, like I told you before, the problem we have is that most lawyers don't research. It's a problem. It's not about laws and they don't research. You know. So I encourage you. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, we are listening.
Anytime you are faced with any problem, any case law, or any situation you are appearing in any court, if you want to be the best, look at the cause of action. Look at the fact. Use your biro. Write out all the laws that the fact relates to. Then use your hand gently pick out the particular sections that this fact apply to. Study those sections. Write your submission. It is simple. You win the case. Finish. But do you know what most people do? They read the facts. And they say, I think it is the criminal code that applies. They just go and argue strictly on criminal code. And somebody will just raise a notice of preliminary objection and kick their case out. And in court, they will be looking at her. I didn't know there is a law like this. But you're a lawyer now, so you should know the law. That's why your client is paying you. So that's my take on it. But you know, I like the way that some lawyers are not even researching because it makes my work easy for me. When I appear, I don't have to stress myself too much.
Kepas, you should contribute. I think I was one talking.
Yeah. With regards to issue that about the the Supreme Court annulling the judgment that was earlier delivered because of the constitutional provision. I think there is a case that is similar to that, and the Supreme Court reached a different decision. Okay. I don't know if you've read the case of FRN and Osaon.
Yes, I've read
FRN.
Yes, I've read that case.
One of his objections is that the police does not have power to keep criminal proceedings. It's only the Attorney General. Since the police is not an arm of the Attorney General, they cannot execute an action, a criminal proceeding against you. You know, and the police then, they were relying on the Police Act, which gave them power to institute an action against an accusation, even though the Constitution did not specifically dash them that power. So now, it's like, it's like there are two laws. One, the Constitution, which did not give them power, and the other, which is the Police Act, which gave them the power. So this was an opportunity for the Supreme Court section that gives police unconstitutional because. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Clear.
I can hear you clearer.
Good. So that was an opportunity for the Supreme Court to declare that section that gives the police power to institute criminal police as constitutional. But What the Supreme Court did was put the two laws side by side. They did not look at the law as contradicting each other. They looked at the police as supplementing the constitution.
I think yes, there was a dissent in that case. There was a dissent, like two dissents.
You said?
There were two dissents in that case. Katsina Law and Mustafa.
Yeah. They were dissenting judgment, but the lead judgment was in favor of the police.
Yes.
Particularly, I love the judgment that was delivered by Walter Enoch. It was so clear. The law was not that particular section of the police was not declared unconstitutional, but it was read in line with the constitution as a supplement to the constitution, because it's not everything that is contained in the constitution. Because even the jurisdiction of the court, the constitution made it clear that the National Assembly can make other laws which confers some additional jurisdiction to the courts. And in the case of Orji, on the summary that I read, that there was another law administrative of criminal justice as well, that's not the judge of the judge, even though he gave it not the judge of the Federal High Court, he gave it power to promoted to another court, even if he was promoted to another court, give judgment. But why is it that this case the Supreme Court did not read this law as not contradicted?
Yeah.
Read the constitution and will not read the criminal justice in line with the constitution.
Okay, so Michael Esquire, I believe you heard this question, right?
We'll just be going back and forth. I want to go and make dinner and eat and rest. Like my response initially still stands. But I like your argument. But I just want you to be aware of one fact. You made mention of FRN and or Sahon or something.
George or Sahon,
aware that by the provision of the ACJA, that law has been rendered redundant. Because the prosecuting power of the police has been removed by virtue of the ACJA. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I said you made mention of FRN and Osahon. On the prosecuting power of the police. And I'm saying, are you aware that judgment has been rendered redundant by virtue of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015?
Okay. Is it that the law is contrary to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act?
What the law says is that I think he was talking about that it is only the Attorney General or the State Council, one of them. But what he's saying is that it's only lawyers that have the power to prosecute a matter, a criminal matter. So at that point in time, when the law was signed, the Attorney General wrote to the police. So the police had to reassign all the cases they have in the High Court back to the office of the Honorable Attorney General. So the only place you can see police prosecuting matters now, I think it's just a magistrate court. You know, just a little, not much. That's why the Attorney General is. Okay.
Okay. This case has to do with two laws that are not constitutions, do contrary to each other. One is the Police Act, and the second is the Administration of Criminal Justice. And because none of them is the constitution, both of them are at the same level. The Administration of Criminal Justice is not greater than the Police Act.
Okay, I think I get his point. What is
if the Police Act was at the same level with the Constitution as not contradicting each other, why will the Police Act be said to be outdated because it is contrary to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act? Is it that the Administration of Criminal Justice is greater than the Constitution? Since even the Constitution did not declare the Police Act, that section that gave the police power, unconstitutional. Is it that the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is greater than the Constitution?
Philip, I think you need to listen more. What I say is that I'm not making reference to the Police Act. I said I can make reference to FRN and Osaho. Can you hear me?
Okay, like sir, you are saying that the ACJA repealed the law that was established by FRN's case, that Osaho's case.
What I said is that ACJA rendered that case redundant. That's what I said.
Okay, but I think it still boils down to this. That case of law.
Don't worry.
And since we stated the Police Act.
Yes, the only thing that can happen is that an interested party cannot bring an originating summon before the court to challenge that. But as it stands now, I'm telling you what is happening in practice. Whether you argue from now till tomorrow, this is what is happening. The police cannot prosecute a case in the High Court or in the Federal High Court. Since the inception of the ACJA. Now back to Carlos' case. Please, I'll give this summary because I need to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Philip, understand something here. The ACJA in Carlos' case was in direct conflict with the provision of the Constitution. And that is it. Whether you have your own subjective opinion to that, there is no problem. It's a welcome idea. And another way for you to know that the Supreme Court is right. Like what I normally do is, if I want to know if the Supreme Court is right about a particular view, I look out for dissenting judgments. In 9 out of 10 cases, if the Supreme Court gives the judgment unanimously on a constitutional matter, what it means is that 7 scholars sat down and gave that judgment. So if one person did not disagree, my brother, these guys, they started from, most of them started as magistrates. Before they rose to that position, it's highly difficult for them to be wrong. In 9 out of 10 cases, I'm sure of that.
Okay.
So that provision of the ACJA was actually in conflict of that section you read. Because Honorable Justice Nimo, at the point of delivering of the judgment, which I've been trying so hard to explain to you guys, at that point in time was no longer a justice of the Federal High Court. The administration of Federal High
Court
is different from the administration of the Court of Appeal. And the administration of the Court of Appeal is different from the administration of the Supreme Court. All these courts have their court rules. And these procedures, whether you like it, must be followed. Paul, remember what I told you when we started this conversation? In a criminal matter, as a prosecuting counsel, caution must be your watchword. In your drafting of charges, in your writing of submission, in your examination in chief, cross-examination, and re-examination. If you are not careful, the suspect will be let loose.
Okay.
And you can't do anything about it. You know. So the only thing is that you have to come back and file another charge. So that is it. So gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering if we should schedule another day and talk on a different subject matter. But I don't know how to schedule.
Don't worry. We can discuss further. Let's say tomorrow by 3. Because I have another appointment by 6.
Okay.
So let's say 3 p.m. tomorrow.
What do you think about 3?
You said?
3. I really cannot say.
You said what?
If three is not okay for you, then you have to leave it till 8 p.m.
Why can't we make it 7?
No, I have an appointment 6 and 7. I think from 5, 6, 7.
Okay, maybe I'll just get across this. I will find a very good spot. I will take care first, then we'll agree to speak. And more persons would like to join us. We like having discussions like this.
No problem. I'm always available.
Okay.
It's important. You know one thing about this legal profession.
Yeah.
Nobody knows it all.
Yes,
We
sir.
keep learning. And you know, the more we learn, the more we discover that we don't even know anything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you understand? I've learned under some great people in that faculty of law. You know, chief of all, Professor Emeka Chiano.
Yeah.
You know,
He has not taught me this.
And
He will teach me in 411.
he has taught me two different levels. I pray he teaches you land law. Please just pay good attention. Forget about anything that is bothering you whenever you are in land law class. People might tell you that land law is difficult, but it's one of the easiest courses in faculty of law. Just follow the man's lead.
Okay.
You know, it's very simple. Imagine, I like it to the extent that I'm doing it up to the PhD level.
Yes. And I really admire the fact that you are practicing and also pursuing your academic side. It's very commendable.
Yeah, but it's not easy. It's very difficult. It's not easy. It's a big challenge. But you know, you have to work now so you can pay your fees.
Yes.
You know, you have to pay your school fees. You have to pay your house rent. You know, you have to fuel your car. You have to eat. You know, you have to do some other things, other responsibilities you have.